Welcome to ClickStar, brought to you by Lucky Dice Cafe out of Huntsville, Alabama. Check them out at LuckyDiceCafe.com. And now for your hosts, Daniel Powell, Jason Alvey, and Tyler Speeds.
Hey everybody, welcome to ClickStuff today. This is your host Daniel Powell speaking. Just want to let y'all know that ClickStuff is brought to you by TrollandToad.com, the world's largest HeroClix retailer. Find HeroClix new and old at TrollandToad.com. Save 5% off your HeroClix order with coupon code ClickStuff. Merchant and pre-order items do not apply. If you like what you hear today on ClickStuff, check us out at patreon.com/ClickStuff. $1 and above gets entered into our monthly giveaways. $5 and above gets entered into our exclusive Discord server for tips, tricks, and exclusive training classes. Also, check out clickstuff.com. We've got some new articles posted up there, some casual stuff, and we're working on getting a diverse array of types of articles up there. So joining me today is Tyler. Finally decided on a team Spees.
Hello.
And Alex is quite possibly superhuman Coos.
That is, I can neither confirm nor deny this.
So we're coming fresh off of Team Nats and Singles Nats, which is the goal of our show tonight, and talking a little bit about coverage on those two events and prep and consistency on making top cuts. So we're not going to cover Spider-Man tonight, much to Tyler's chagrin. But we have a little bit of catching up to do here on the podcast, so for apologies, we've been behind. We've had some crazy work stuff between all of us, and Alex has been getting 1,000 and 1,800 pictures ready.
I'm still somehow getting images ready for Nats. I don't know how this is possible.
Right. So, we're going to record this show, and then we're probably going to record Spider-Man here in less than a week or so, just to break up the amount of content. We'd love to do a 4-hour show, but we can't do that at 9:30 on a Tuesday night.
10:30.
10:30 in the
real people time.
Fast people time. I call Eastern time angry people time.
That's a fair statement, and I accept it.
Yeah,
we call Central Time slow time. So
that's right. I agree. We take things a little different around here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't wake up super early like y'all do on Eastern time.
That's a good one.
We don't send our kids to school to get on the bus in the dark.
I'm sure somebody does.
Probably. All right. Well, so here's how I want to talk about it. I want to talk about Team Nats first. So congrats to 4 Points Gaming Club, Isaac AB, Matt, and Scott for winning the team event. So congrats to those guys. We'll cover our performance there pretty quickly because it was terrible. Jason played the Armor team. He played E-Tree, Soul Gem, Time Gem, Reality Gem on the sideline, Onslaught, Punisher, War Machine, Iceman, and the Latvarian Engineer. We dropped after round 4. He went 1-3. Tyler, what did you play? How did you do?
Played Darkseid, Lockjaw, Brainiac, and then Symbiote on Lockjaw, and the WWE ring, and the map.
You mean Symbiote on Darkseid?
What'd I say?
Symbiote on Lockjaw.
Yeah, Symbiote. I did not cheat.
And that's how he got DQ'd.
I really do like Symbiote on Darkseid. Being able to break away for fee is a huge deal. Having an extra rollout is a big deal too. So I think it's a really good item until those arms come out. But we're not allowed to talk about that.
The arms?
Yeah.
You mean the
arms.
Waldo? He's talking Waldo. Waldo arms.
Yeah.
The Waldo arms? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. We'll talk about that later.
Yep.
And what was your record?
It was a solid 1-4, and I got
1-3 because we dropped after round prayer. Yeah.
Sure. And I got, I think it was 85 total points on the day. So it was not, it was definitely not my play style. I didn't have any time to practice, as we discussed, a lot of work stuff. And Darkside was just sort of he was fun to play, but I did feel sort of outpaced on a lot of the matchups. But,
so you mentioned you liked having Symbiote on him because he can auto breakaway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming for when you charge or something.
Yeah, it's really important to not have him tied up because he has no improved movement at all. So if they put a Pog next to him,
he has phasing.
Yeah, but then you can't attack. So like, I was always losing Brainiac, like always. People killed Brainiac, and they were up 10 points at that point. So I had to go aggressive in all my games. And I just can't let him get tied up, or else I'm just punching Pogs until.
Right, but I mean, you still got the Mega Beam, so
maybe the play there for you should have been like double ringing him.
Yeah, maybe.
But I could have probably played the Venom symbiote on my team, and you could have played the Remaker and Spin.
Yep. Yeah, Spin would be nice too. Just again, auto breakaway, pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I like that.
So.
Yeah, well, in 3 of my games, or 2 of my games, they had some sort of free barrier, so they would always just I couldn't do anything with the Omega Beam because they just buried around the Omega Beam. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we had some of the worst matchup luck between A, B, and C, or between A and C for sure. Like Jason got matched up with the high defense team, a few rounds, and you got matched up with the barrier team. But I think if that had been flip flopped, y'all would have been okay. I had, just regular matchups, I guess. I played Widow, Captain Marvel, Steve Rogers, Prime Batman, Mind Gem, Remaker. I went 4-0 with 3 wipes and 197 points in the other game. So, Tyler and Jason were concerned that they were letting me down, but they weren't. The way I look at it is work pays for hero clicks, or allows us to have a house over our head in which to play roll 20 hero clicks in. So they both had some crazy work commitments that 2 weeks prior to Nats. So, it just is what it is, right? Plus, we had some bad matchup luck. There's nothing we could do about that. So.
And since they're both having the same time and we had limited practice time, obviously we're practicing for singles because that's standard meta,
Right.
I'm not practicing that Darkside team because I have a team that I'm going to be using in all other events that has more than one figure on it. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the singles for us was the big deal. So. Now I would say this: I really liked Batman with the Mind Gem on him. +1 attack is, just a static perplex, right? Which is great. And then if you roll a 10+, you get to mind control the map again.
Yeah, he's probably the best use case for that.
For the Mind Gem. Yeah, I mean, Soul Gem's obviously good if you play against a bunch of Mystics. I mean, I like Exospecs, but I didn't have the points for it. I was just, Exospecs being 12 points screwed me over.
Is that like the only thing left in the meta that's odd points? I guess Symbiote's 4, but it's basically 5.
Yeah, it's under, right? It's the only thing that's over that's a problem, right?
Right, yeah. I can't think of anything else.
Harness.
Oh, yeah, that's what, 7, I think?
Yeah, Harness is 7.
Yeah, that'd be
nothing else relevant. Maybe the Christmas present.
Hey, okay.
Christmas present.
It's very relevant.
I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's odd point. Is it 5 points?
It's 5 points.
Okay, well it's not weird then. Maybe the Glaive. Is the Glaive odd points?
I think it's 10. Corvus Glaive.
It's 10. Yeah, so I guess the Exospecs and the Harness are the only weird ones. But I guess, realistically, the Harness is...
Proxima Spear is 8.
Yeah, but I guess realistically, if you say that the rounding up is fine. If I say that the Harness costs 10 or the Proxima Spear costs 10, that's okay.
Right.
But I think if I say the...
costs 6 or 15.
If I think I say that the Exospecs cost 15, that's too many.
Right. I don't know if it's too many. It's just annoying.
Right.
I still think it's probably worth it, as on certain figures, obviously.
Sure.
Yeah, it definitely. It definitely has a spot on a lot of teams, but those 2 points. I mean, I know when I'm building robot teams with Magneto, it's always like those 2 points are always just too many. Like,
yeah,
it's just always it works perfectly, and then you're like, dang, those 2 points.
Yep, it just is 15.
Because you don't have IDs anymore to help offset that, right?
Right. That's a huge deal.
Because you're like, I'll throw a Jean Grey student ID on. Now I'm at 15 points. It's great.
Yeah, that would make it a lot more palatable, right?
Yeah.
But I had some good matchups. I had a particular nasty matchup versus some robots, but I managed to pull that one out in the end. It was the first time that my Widow's been crit hit.
Ooh.
And it sucked. It sucked really bad. I was
yep,
she's reset. Because he came at me with 5 damage. He was like, all right, I got to roll the 8 for 5 damage. And he was like, crit hit. And I'm like, shit.
Yep, so, that can't feel good.
No, it didn't feel good. I couldn't. He had me in the pinch, so I couldn't prob it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's becoming very relevant.
Yeah, the pinch is becoming pretty relevant.
I use that on Dark Panther or Black Leopard.
Dark Panther.
Black Leopard a lot.
Where's Dark Panther coming from? I never heard of that.
Let me look him up. He's probably a thing. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Dark Panther is a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Ooh. So, Jason, we went over your team's record already and talked about that and just how we had not so great day in teams. But if you want to lead us off on some singles, talk about what you played and just what your overall record was. And
no, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Tyler, would you like to talk about what you played and what your overall record was?
I suppose. I played Cosmic +7. It was Captain Marvel at 95, Franklin at 65, Brainiac at 10, and then 4 30-point Phoenixes. Yeah, so that was it. It's a real fun team. It has a lot of threats that are hard to deal with at the same time. I went 3-2 in the first day. I made top cut. I can't remember where I placed.
You were in the late 20s like me.
Yeah. Oh, I just got it here actually. I finished 23rd. Yeah, it was the top 3-2. So I scored a lot of points, which is what the team's supposed to do. And then in top, won my first game in top 32 against Tim Bold, who's running an Alpha Avengers team, which my team does really, really well against. And then in top 16, I played against the team's champion, Isaac, and that is by far out of 122 contestants my worst matchup. So,
right, he won map, right?
He won map. He was +3 on me. And my strategy against Batman is obviously just like body block, just to make sure that some of my pieces are alive after Batman does his thing. But his team was very, very good at that because it had spin ring to move my phoenixes around. It had the knockback ring to knock back the pogs so I don't body block. It had wits for my shape change. He actually made my Captain Marvel tiny so she didn't get her shape change from the object. I was also running the symbiote. I put that on her. So basically he just organized all of my stuff right to where Batman had a line of fire on all of it, and then he killed it all.
And his team was a bunch of Fates, Prime Batman, 2 Atoms, Amanda Waller, and Stargirl, for those that are curious.
And then the knockback ring and the
spin ring.
To get people out of the way.
Yep.
So yeah, it was not the best matchup, but it's a really fun team. I think if I didn't get that bad matchup, I would have gone pretty far. It's definitely a team I'm looking at in the future, so I like it.
Right. And you might possibly be playing that team this weekend in Columbus?
I very well might be. I need to see if I can find a Brainiac, which shouldn't be that much of an issue.
Right. So I played the Widow Marvel team. I went 3-2, made it to top 632. I was 27th-ish, and made it past my top 32 matchup, which was a Widow Mirror. So I lost map against Connor, and I had the best dice roll, the best blades roll that I've ever had in my entire life. As far as relevant blades rolls in a competitive situation. I'm sure I've rolled a 6 on blades before, but I haven't done it in this critical of a situation. So Connor moved up on the Iron Avengers map. I moved up. I equipped my Remaker. No, sorry, I didn't equip my Remaker because he stole it with a recruit. Moved up, deleted his dial, outwitted his super senses, just in case he landed on senses. And then, so this was turn 1, not turn 2, turn 0, turn 1, whatever you want to call the first time we do stuff. Moved up, dropped my cat, perplexed up its attack, hit with the blades, rolled the blades, rolled a 6, reset the Widow turn 1, rolled a 3 on the return because she healed up 4, brought out a Brainiac as I hit his recruit. The Brainiac rolled for an action token, which pushed the Widow to her stop click. Then I phased, close in-capped her, and killed her in turn 1. Which was the best possible situation of all of those entire rolls.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Alex?
No, I was just saying wow. It's a pretty incredible turn of events.
Yeah, and then I didn't hit a single attack against Joe the next round, and Joe went on to get second.
I can't quantify this in any way, but it feels like when you roll blades on a Pog, it does better than normal. Because it was the same thing with Teakle. He always seemed to roll really well. But maybe it's just because it's coming from somebody you're not paying for.
Right.
So anything sounds or feels good.
Well, right. and it may also be that with Pogs generally you don't have an alternative. Like they have 1 damage or less. So you're like, I have to roll blades. Where you might have a regular figure and it's like, oh, he's got 3 damage.
Right.
You know, I'll take the chance. Where Pogs, it's like, no, this is my only option.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So this leads me into my segment, and this one was inspired by a post that DJ made on his page, and he was talking about how he was disappointed in his Nationals appearance after a great showing at Worlds last year, and Brad Milburn commented in. He said, "It's exactly how I felt at Worlds in October after my run in Origins, which he got top 8 at." So it's how do you consistently make top cuts, and what are some of my theories behind, for example, why Tyler and I continue to make top cuts, right? And make top 16s, right? Because top 16 out of 120 something players, I don't think is anything to sneeze at, right? I mean, we didn't make top 8, so we didn't make all the published team lists, right? We were 1 round from that, but top 16 is pretty dang good, I think. Even top 32 is pretty dang good, right? Top 3rd, I mean, that's not. I mean, top higher than that, it's like top 20. It's like top 4th of the field, right? So what do you do to constantly make top cuts, right? So I want to use Joe Gutierrez as a little bit of an example here. And so I think Joe has taken the Tyler Spees approach to this. Joe constantly practices online. Joe has won several online Winamaps. He has dedicated himself to the art of online play.
I practiced with him a couple times leading up to Nats. I think 2 or 3.
Right. Joe has also availed himself to all forms of HeroClix
media.
HeroClix media on the competitive side. He's subscribed to our Patreon a couple of times the past couple of years, and he did some practice sessions with us and some coaching sessions. Now, not that probably helped him at all. It probably didn't help him at all. I don't want anyone to think that we're trying to take credit of it. It's just a fact. So if it helped, it helped. If it didn't, it didn't. I don't really care. Take that how you want. Which I hate that I even have to defend myself that way. I think that I've worked with Joe quite a bit and have helped him in some small aspect on his play styles. But whatever. Joe avails himself to all forms of media, HeroClix related, which is what we do here at ClickStuff, right? We're in all of the Facebook groups. We're in the Rock Discords. We're reading that. We're practicing with other people outside of our play group constantly. I do a lot of that via our Discord or the Rock Discord, and so we're learning what other people are playing. We're learning other play styles. I guess kind of think of it like Taskmaster, right? Would that be a good way to put it, Tyler? Like you're learning the other martial arts, right?
It definitely because there is a regional, flavor to HeroClix. People in the Midwest play different than people on the West Coast play different than people in Texas. There are things that they do differently that they're all well versed in that we don't normally see until a national event, unless I think obviously online has helped a lot with that. And I would just want to, I don't know where to fit this in, but small flex is I haven't missed the top 16 in a major since Nats of 2018. So fingers crossed for Worlds, I guess.
Right. And I haven't either, except for 2018 Worlds where I puked everywhere. So I'm just going to call that one a wash.
No excuse. You You had to be there.
No excuses.
You know what? In that vein, I just want to make sure we say this. Our team dropped after Paris's did on Saturday. So,
yeah, just wait.
huh?
I was trying to convince Dan because we were out and I had a family event going on, and so we were talking about it, and then we saw in the Discord that Paris drops. We're like, okay, now we can drop. Now we're fine.
Right. Yeah. So even though I puked at 2018 Nats, I still did better than Paris by making the event. Yeah, that's just an ongoing joke between Paris and I. But yeah, I mean it's consistency, and I haven't missed one since 2017. I got top 8 in the Nats in 2017 and top 16 in Worlds that year. So that was fun. That was the first time I ever played Nate White, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I
What
know
you
I
were
didn't go
doing?
to Rock Cup in 2017. Yeah.
And this humble brags section was brought to you by Troll and Toad. Troll and Toad for all your humble brag needs.
Right. Well, it's the point of how do we constantly make top cuts, right? What is the secret sauce that we have, right? So, I mean, that's a good point. We'll stop humble bragging and get back to the meat here. So, practice is part of it, right? Practicing outside of your comfort zone. Availing yourself to all forms of HeroClix media. Like I will go and I'll read Realms.
I pop in every once in a while, just
right. I don't read everything, but like if I see something interesting, because they'll talk about different types of interactions, right? That's what I typically get from it. But now, I mean, of course, Realms is very toxic, and there's several Facebook groups on with HeroClix that are very toxic. So you have to be prepped mentally to deal with those. But if you're ready to deal with that and just kind of ignore some of that toxicity, you can glean some good information from some of these posts, right? I mean, it's almost a job to just study everything, right? Study what's going on, and that sort of thing, right? So, like, I'll use the example, McConnell Lamar made top 16, and, even Joe making top 2, right? Those are 2 players that a lot of people don't know about, right? But from McConnell's perspective, if you play in the Rock Online events, you've played against McConnell, you know what he does on New York Harbor, you understand the intricacies of how he uses that map bonus to generate objects for cables, how he sends up cables to destroy your objects. He had his team write-up on Last Action HeroClix, by the way. But you understand that going into the event, and then you make a little mental note, McConnell, high theme X-Men, steals your object, steal your girl, and it's just being like Batman, I guess, too, and like making notes on everyone, having a catalog of everyone on what they're playing, how they play it, and maybe they'll change it up on you, but at least you get an understanding of when you go into that type of matchup, what you can kind of expect to see the first few turns.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing ever, and it's like far and away more than anything else, to just practice online, because it's super available now and easy, and there's always people on there to practice with, and that's it. It's just practice. Practicing is all, yeah, it's the biggest thing.
Right. So let's as an observer of watching you guys prepare, I think it also is good to talk a little bit about Tyler's situation, because Tyler, you were in a different situation than Dan, because you didn't have as much practice time. Like, you really were only able to get into gear a couple weeks, 3 weeks before nationals. So what Tyler did, and you can expand on this more, is Tyler made sure when he built his team, he built something that was relatively in his comfort zone. He wanted something in a more aggressive team build because that is what he's used to playing, and he used that familiarity to compensate for the lack of ability to practice like he would want to. He still got in good practice, but he used that team to be able to say, oh, I know generally how this is going to work. Let me use the practices to iron out some issues. Because basically, I would say between the two of you that you guys are kind of pretty different. Like, Dan, you spend a lot of time on your team mentally, like all day, every day. And not that Tyler doesn't. It's just you put the time in there, and not everybody has the time for that. So I think it's a good thing to talk about the differences between that you guys are two fairly different types of preparers for these types of tournaments. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Right. So I would agree with that in the point that oh gosh, I forgot my point.
I mean,
so like, and I'll let Tyler expand too, but I played a team that was in my comfort zone too, right? Widow and Marvels is hard to KO. It has a good amount of attacks. It has high attack, high defense if needed. So it was something that fell into my comfort zone. But I'll let Tyler expand on kind of why he played what he played as well. Those stupid seals.
Alex is right. Basically, I practiced a few different teams. I knew I wanted to be aggressive, and I knew that I liked Dark Phoenix a lot. My number one thing is if a figure has colossal stamina. That's such a huge deal for tempo and everything, because the threat's always there. So, and I knew I liked Dark Phoenixes, so I went with that. The team ended up having a lot of the same strength as whales in a lot of ways. So, I knew how to capitalize on those strengths. So there definitely was familiarity, and that's why I did as well as I did. Obviously, because I played Dark Side and had different results, because that is a different type of team. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring it up just to kind of, because there's a lot of our listeners just don't have the time that they may get concerned. I don't have time to be able to spend 10 hours, 8 hours a week working, like practicing, but I want to be able to compete competitively and do pretty well. And I think it's finding, now you should be able to get away from your niche a little bit, but finding your niche, whatever it's called, is helpful. Your play style, figuring out what you are very comfortable with. That way, when you are having to find a new team, which both of you did have to find a new team, come rotation, like you had to completely abandon teams you were very familiar with to find something new. And that's the thing. You guys were able to say, okay, this is the type of team. Dan is more of a don't die. You've got I got a lot of rollouts. I got power, but I'm hard to KO. Tyler's, I'm in your face, aggressive. You may take out one or two of my figures, but I've got like a lot more ready to hammer you afterwards to make you pay for what you're doing. Like that's your general mind. When I look at you two as players, that's what I see.
I think that is, to boil it down as much as possible, that's the easiest difference, is that I play teams that give up a lot of points very easily, and Dan very much does not. I think that is the best way to summarize the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct. Yeah, I think I gave up less than 200 points in 4 rounds.
I think I gave up at least 100 points in every round.
I'm sorry, and on teams, I gave up less than 200 points in 4 rounds. In singles, I got wiped once. I think I may have got wiped twice. I don't know. In Swiss. Dan,
unless you had something you immediately wanted to go into, I wanted to talk a little bit more about teams in general. We talked a little bit about how you guys progress, but from a tournament organizer, talking purely about preparing for a team event.
So folks are wanting to know, though, seriously, though, are you superhuman? How did you make all those images in such little time? Seriously, that dude is the real MVP, Tom Shannonberger says.
It's just organization. I've learned early you have to be organized and make it efficient. My job is literally auditing. So my job is to make sure people are, and I also do process improvement. So my whole thing is, let me look at what you're doing and how I can improve it. So me making these dials and these tokens, every time I sat down to do it, I kept thinking of new ways to do it faster. And eventually I got fast enough that it was reasonable. But I won't deny it. I'll say it on this podcast for sure. Like, I may have had some choice words for some of you guys playing some random figures that I never would have thought I would have ever had to put in clicks form. But I did. Let's see. Someone played Ellie Hawk Girl. Never thought I would have to make an Ellie Hawk Girl.
Wait, LE?
The LE one, yeah.
The stuff with items?
No. That's old school, man. That's way old school. The LE Hawk Girl from JLU, the one that like lowers your defense, like your whole team loses one defense. I don't get it.
Okay.
She has charge. Other friendly characters modify defense -1.
Yeah, I remember.
She's strong though. I mean, 11 for 4, but I didn't get it. But she has the whole Justice founding members thing, so that's probably why. Either way, I had to make a ton of figures I just didn't expect. Like Ellie Punisher. Like I should have known with Punisher War Machine, but right. It just didn't hit. Like it didn't hit me on certain things. I did not expect, and I think this is something we've talked about privately. Like I did not expect Fantastic Four to be as big as it was. And I don't mean the set, I mean the whole switching out of Fantastic Four members. Like that was a big to do. I almost clicked, like made dials for almost every single Fantastic Four piece. It is by far the biggest set that I did.
So I would like to pause there for just a second. That's a good point. Do you guys think Fantastic Four has legs in full modern?
As the team, like the full Fantastic Four team.
Yeah, as the full Swapper Rooney do the stuffy team.
I don't think so personally. I'm not saying you can't play it. I'm saying I don't think it's if there's tiers, I don't think it's in the S tier.
So it did so well it won teams.
It did.
So what do you think made it do so poorly in singles?
Bad rolls, bad decisions.
Generally, that's the safe answer. There was none in top 8, right? No, there was not. Were there? I don't even know top 16. Do you guys know of any?
Maybe. What's his name from Michigan? Jeremy Walters, maybe? I don't know that for sure. I don't think so. But
Jeremy Walters did play that in teams. I think he did also. That's another point I'll get to in a minute about the difference between singles and teams. But it was played by a lot. I mean, PJ played it also. I mean, he was, I won't say one of the founding fathers of the Fantastic Four type team, but I feel like he's the founding father of a lot of teams. So, it's like, let's find the root person who made. Oh, it's PJ. Oh, he's the first one who came up. So I know with him, he just had and he'll probably talk about it on his own podcast. He just had a bad day, like dice wise. Like it just, in theory, the team looked great. And I think the key thing, I like it. And the reason I like it is because it has flexibility. And that's what you want, is flexibility. To be able to just say, oh, this matchup's worse, I'm bringing in these people, and I could still do a lot. Because think about the main pieces on these type of teams, we've talked about them. You've got the Von Dooms, you've got Franklin Richards, you've got Valeria, you've got Super Rare Thing, you've got Ghost Rider, you've got Wolverine. Like, they're all really good pieces.
They're not, see, that's the issue. They're not all really good pieces. There is about 200 points of really good pieces, I would say. And
Yeah,
the rest
so
are kinda meh.
So I think my problem is that it relies way too heavily on Black Leopard being into position.
I agree with that.
And the thing having a 19 defend.
No, because Invisible Woman also has the defend too, I believe, right?
But hers is only an 18.
Does she even have it?
There's one that she has a 19. No, not defend. She also relies on that whole Fantastic Four bumping up your stats. Like, there's certain things with that. That's the thing. Is like I haven't done enough research into the nuances of the team.
I mean, pretty much the basis of the team was going to that Fantastic Four map and going into the defense room and having a 22 defense and hoping that you get into position for Black Leopard to make you a 10 attack, so you had to crit hit. The problem is that Black Leopard isn't Nighthawk Prime. He's got to be in position, so if you swoop in with a high attack, nuke somebody, get out of position, the thing starts falling apart. Which I think is what happened to a lot of folks in singles playing this team, which is why I don't think it's necessarily the tippy top tier team.
Now, did any of you guys play against Fantastic Four in singles?
Not in singles. Jason played against it in teams.
I played it in teams. I don't think I played it in singles.
Jason, how did your matchup in teams go? Like, just in general, like, what did you see playing against Fantastic Four?
I played Isaac in the first round of teams, and he had what he wound up putting on the board was Thing, Valeria Richards, Franklin Von Doom, Black Leopard. Then he had the Buzz and Chuck Pogs, and he had the Alicia Grimm Pog and the Dawn Greenwood Pog, and he put a Space Jam, I think, on one of them. I can't remember which one right now. I wound up winning map against him, so he didn't get to use the Reed's Lab map against me. But yeah, it was just kind of a high defend. You know, he was using Franklin to block off lines of fire with the terrain markers, with the blocking terrain markers, and that sort of thing. And perplexing up everybody's defense. And that's when I was playing Onslaught, Punisher, War Machine. I was able to get Frank. It's hard to hit that much defense sometimes, and I was able to separate Franklin Von Doom from the rest of the pack, which isn't really what I wanted. But then I had enough tags to kill him, but then I missed. So,
which is what they're counting on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess I don't understand why you guys think that's just not generally good. Like, a lot of people rely on rollouts. They rely on you rolling well, which doesn't happen a lot, right? Like,
they rely on high defense, right?
Because here's the thing, right? Like, if I have shape change, super senses, and imperv, while each roll is separate, right? The chances of that roll just negating you is like, my opponent can only do so many things about me not being able to roll out, right? Battle Fury, Outwit, can't use Precision Strike, right? They're all dependent on those things, but my rollout, if I have 3 of them stacked, there's not much you can do about it. Percentage-wise, right? Like, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but like, having those 3 rolls and making one is pretty high. Now, if you're relying on your opponent to be bad and get into position of Black Leopard, or get it within 6 of him, to whereas if you have a team that has 7 range and you go out and go 14 for 6, you can hit a 22 especially if they don't have the range for the prob, right? Let's say you're 8, 9, 10 squares away, and they can't prob you. You come in with a high attack. High attack will typically always beat high defense.
You still got to roll 8s and 9s. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible.
Not with a 14.
You just said 22. Yeah, you got to roll an 8. That's literally what I just said.
Well, you said 8s or 9s. That's not a 9. It's an 8.
I'm just saying if you're going by the probability game, like
right, but not all of them are necessarily at a 22 either.
I think it's just I feel like you guys are just underplaying, like what's the word? Like not giving them credit. Yeah, undervaluing the nuance of the team. Because it's different. Anyway, go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
The second version I played was a little bit different. Like they didn't. They had a ton of perplex and knocking, and he had high defense, ball going, but he also was perplexing me down like it's a ton. You got Black Leopard already knocking your stats down, but then they had like -2 perplexing the thing. Valeria perplexing you down, Franklin perplexing you down. Like it was just, I mean, that just made it extremely hard to try to hit anything. Even being outside of Black Leopard's range, you got -3 to your attack. I mean, it's still pretty damn hard.
I mean, I think one thing I would want to say about the team, and we can move on after that if you want it, is just I feel like the reason it didn't do great and did better than expected is that it has a high entry point of play. It is not like a Widow team, like the basic Widow team. Like it doesn't have an easy entry.
That's true. It is hard. It's harder to play for sure.
Right.
Yeah, you have to know when to switch out, how to position well, how to exploit your opponent's movements. And if you don't have those nuances and that experience, the team is just going to fall apart.
Right. So that's a great point. And that's why there were several folks saying after singles teams Nats that, Widow's not any good. Well, she made 2 of the top 8 teams, and now one of those teams didn't have her dice roll trait active, which means she's just that damn good without her dice rolling trait.
Sure.
But like in that example, like I can go through and sort of not really mindlessly, but let's say I miss a square on Captain Marvel and Widow, and then you just come up and yeet a crit miss. Well, shit, I guess I'm okay. You come up and yeet a 3. All right, I'm good, bro.
See, I feel like that. There are things that other teams do that are just unfair.
Right. But so then your Fantastic Four team falls apart because you just rolled a 4. I come in hypersonic, yeet your team because I rolled a crit hit and you can't re-roll me. And like that, but that team just falls apart. So if you have to play a team that's mentally hard to play all day versus someone that can be on half-ass autopilot and win games, you have a very hard chance of making that team be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know I got a little excited there, but I mean that's sort of the situation, right? I'm not undervaluing. It's like a barrier team. Like the Fantastic Four team is just hard to play all day, and maybe only Isaac AB can be the only person in the world that can play it well. I don't know.
Now, to be fair, he only played it in teams.
Teams, yeah.
I
don't think he lost in teams, though, right?
I don't know. I don't have the individual wins.
But then again, right, you're looking at like that team probably falls apart against Batman. If Batman wins map and has a 15 attack, that's only a 7 to deal 4 damage to the whole team.
They've got the barrier to be able to protect against that, though.
Yeah, but depends on the map, depends on the situation. I mean,
they only have 5 figures they have to barrier around. So
there is, but they don't have a good alpha scenario back either.
Yeah, that's true. They would have to.
I mean, we also got to keep in mind they have Valeria and they have Franklin. They're 2 incredibly good pieces, and it's just it's not just a bunch of commons and uncommons. It's one where maybe down the road we should look into doing a video with somebody who is very fluent with the team just to see because we don't actively play the team, so it might be interesting to pick the mind of a player who did play it in Nats or had some experience with it and knows what the general thought is out of it, because we haven't done it ourselves. We do it from a opponent standpoint, like this is what we think they would do, this is what I would do, but someone with the 100 of hours or whatever experience.
I'm sure if we ask PJ what is Fantastic Four doing against Batman, he's going to rattle off this, and this,
Right. Yeah. You got to remember that, to me, that any team has to be able to score points.
That's true. I agree with that generally.
And like for me, like if I was just to play the counterpoint for whatever PJ was to say, whether that's barrier or whatever, and they get a fate across the map and blow up barrier and kill a piece, then what's the deal? Like, how does that team get across the map? I think I'm pretty good at analyzing how HeroClix work, and I don't see any way for that team to get across the map fast enough while protecting itself to win against Batman.
Yeah.
And Batman in general also made 2 of the top 8 teams in singles.
I just think there's too many things that do too many unfair things right now that it's not like it's a solid team, but it doesn't do anything besides Valeria a little bit, but it doesn't utilize Valeria that well. There's teams that can just deal 5 penetrating damage from 10 squares away, or there's teams like Batman that can just just shoot everything for 6 damage. So I just don't think it's unfair enough in the current meta.
Yeah,
but I will say this: the Batman shooting and the vultures and whatnot, teams aren't going hard into those figures anymore. That's not the strategy. It's you don't go full into one or the other. You have both.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
Right, but it's not like Vulture teams of yore where you pumped them up to, 14 attacks, 6 damage, and you're like, go Vulture, wipe their team. It's Vulture, you're gonna have some perplexes, but not much. We have a bunch of other stuff we're throwing at them.
I don't know. I'm just looking at Scott's team, which is it's a Vulture-esque team, and it can perplex him up 5 times and double T game across the map on turn 2.
Yeah, let's be clear for the Vulture players that are doing well, like Adam and Joe all said, Vulture didn't do much other than just win me my games half the time on turn 2. We've got Vulture to talk about here soon as well.
There's not 1, 2, 3. Where are you getting 5 perplexes?
He switches the reality to Jason, and then he has 2 perplex blocks turn 2.
I see 4.
Valeria, Traitor, reality, double, bystander.
Well, he only has 1 kitty cat. Is there another cat? Oh, it's Gwen. Gwen.
Yeah,
that's it. Gwen. I forget about Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, I don't think watching occasionally games, I don't think he still went all in because
he normally doesn't. But
yeah,
he definitely can. So it's just as good as a regular Vulture team. He just can also do all this other shenanigans that just kills you.
I guess so. So different subject relating to teams, unless you guys had other things you want to talk about with this real quick.
Go ahead. We got a lot to talk about still.
So one thing I've taken away from this event as kind of the organizer, I think next year, if we were to do this again, which we have to prepare as if we will, hopefully we won't, but you always got to think of next time we can have a big tournament. I definitely want to separate teams from singles a little bit more. I do think players that played Highlander already teams in singles definitely had an advantage over players that did not. Like, I feel like you guys suffered a bit because you didn't have enough practice with your teams. And the players who won, for example, 4-point, outside of Isaac, Matt Esbrook and Scott Crampton played their singles teams. Yeah. Well, outside of some trouble alert shifting and minor changes, it's the same team. And a lot of people took that route. Like, either they played the exact same team they played in singles, or they copied Adam Friedman's team, or someone like in top 4 and just copied it and changed it. Right. So it's something I'm in hindsight. I mean, I knew we had to do it the way we did it, but next year it's something I hope we can do is maybe give an extra week, 2 weeks, to be able to allow a little bit more practice time, more wiggle room for newer teams to come out of the woodwork, because it does limit the meta. Like, when you look at all the teams we put in for teams, there was a lot less variance and, like, not say originality, but there was a lot more cookie cutter teams, a lot more staple teams in teams.
Yeah, because it's hard to prepare as much for it.
Yeah, so I think the people who prepared in the way of, hey, I have a really good singles team and I only have to change 1 or 2 things, I'm just going to play that in teams. Like, Tyler, you obviously can't do that because your team relies on a lot of Phoenixes. Dan, who arguably you did the best, right, out of the 3 of you, and that's because your team didn't have to make that many changes. It's like, I add another really good figure and another really good figure instead of a Marvel. So
man, my team was arguably better than my singles team.
I would be interested. I'm sure, like, if you just took people who played the same or similar teams and compared their record to people who played different teams the next weekend, I bet it's a dramatic difference for sure.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing is that we did not keep up with individual wins, in the sense that I don't know who won what on each team. Like, your guys' record may have been whatever it is. I don't know how many Dan won, how many Tyler won, how many Jason won. I have no way of knowing it because of how we did the recording. It's unfortunate, but we had to do the recording the way we did, or else the win would have been all sort of messed up, and it would have been.
Y'all also went way faster on Saturday, which is fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, that we could talk about the difference between singles and nats. Later.
I mean, I don't think we really have to. I mean, we know that you guys made some good improvements behind the scenes, and we appreciate that everything went much faster.
Well, I will say this for Worlds. Obviously, Worlds is going to be way different because ownership isn't required.
Yeah, big difference.
But I think what we're going to do is we are going to most likely back that deadline date for teams up probably 2 days. Make it where it's due on Monday for the Saturday tournament. And I know that sucks, but to be brutally honest, you guys are a bunch of lazy players. Not you guys, but the whole HeroClix community. I think going into teams.
HeroClix players.
Going into teams Wednesday night when teams were due. Wednesday morning, I had 2 out of 38 teams. I got everything starting at from 4 to midnight. That 8 hours is when teams started piling in, and then we had 2 days to review and get back to people and say, okay, why are you playing IDs? Okay, why are you playing? Why are you playing this trouble alert? You have it on this team. Why are you playing this? Why are you playing? You can't play this map. That map's not legal. It just wasn't enough time for us. So definitely we're going to move it back. I originally was thinking Tuesday, but Monday makes the most sense because you have all of the weekend to finalize what your team's going to be, and then Monday, got to submit your team. Now, the tricky part is that we have 2 tournaments on that Saturday, so I have to figure out the logistics for that, whether I want – because people should be able to potentially change their team that they played in the morning, if they make it, to go into the afternoon, because everybody else gets to have new teams. But at the same time, people who have the buys already in have already submitted their teams, so they don't get the option to change. So most likely we won't allow the option to change. It's just something I hadn't thought about until this morning. Yeah. So. But yeah, I mean, it's just we knew going into this, we knew it from the entries because we were sweating it with how many people hadn't purchased entries, and then it skyrocketed the very last day, the last 24 hours for singles. Did the exact same thing for teams, and did the exact same thing for all the builds. So people take to the very last minute, even though mentally they know what team they're playing, like weeks in advance. They just wait till the last minute. And I know part of that had to do with pictures and getting, all of that. I understand that. That should be not a thing for Worlds, but it's definitely, we're most likely moving it back. Wednesday to Saturday is just not a quick enough turnaround time because we're probably going to do something similar where we load everybody's team into Roll20 for you. So that way you're easily able to just pull it over.
Yeah, which was fantastic. Which was absolutely fantastic.
I was not sold on the dials you were making just because I was so used to it, but it's very nice. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
One thing I wanted to mention was in the top 8, I think we only had 2 theme teams, or was it 3?
Teams or singles?
Singles. We had 2 named theme teams and then 1 generic theme team, and the rest were theme, non-theme. So that's a stark change from what we have seen, in the past couple of years.
Because here's the issue, right? And I was talking about this in April. It's the damn blender.
The damn blender. No, you didn't say blender. You said it. Something about 3, right? The Triforce.
Yeah, Triforce, but like
the
rock,
triangle,
paper, scissors, or
the rock paper scissors. It's the blender, right? The episode was called "Enter the Blender."
Okay.
Because here's the problem, and here's what people ran into. Teams that are, I think, Vulture and the Vulture. I'm going to say this: the teams that have Vulture on them are Vulture teams. Just like your Whales team wasn't a Whales team, it was a mini Shredder team. I know you can disagree with me if you want, but
until he retired. After he retired, it was a Whales team.
Then there was definitely after that. So here.
Then it was a Skeets team. Oh,
then it was an Onslaught team. Then it was a Mojo. Then it was a Mojo team. It was Onslaught for teams for the team event.
Yep.
So, anyways, let me make my point here. Vulture, a Vulture team, a team that has Vulture on it is a Vulture team. Okay. The teams. So you can disagree with me, right? So you've got Vulture Jason, right? But I say that Jason is there to just be a backup should Vulture not be as effective. But 50% of the time, Vulture just wins you turn 2. And here's the problem. Folks were combating the wrong meta. They weren't good enough against Vulture because they thought that Black Widow was the majority. And Black Widow really wasn't the majority. They made teams that were weak to Vulture and got wiped by Vulture. So they wouldn't potentially lose to Black Widow. And then what's the third one?
Batman.
Vulture, Batman. And Batman is fine on unthemed or was themed, right? So what wasn't Vulture, was Black Widow, was Batman. Right?
Were all the top teams those 3?
Batman was on 2 of them, Black Widow was on 2 of them, and Vulture was on 2 of them I know of, and so out of the 6.
So the top 2 had Vulture, 3rd place had Black Widow, 4th place had Batman, 5th place had Black Widow, 6th place had... No, 6th place did not, because it was a scientist team. 7th place had Batman, and 8th place had... What is this team?
Are you talking about singles?
Yeah. Oh, 8th place didn't either. So 6 teams.
So what did 8th place? What was 8th place?
It was
Wingard.
Jason Wingard, Jean Grey, Ace, Maria Hill, Tricentennial. That's weird. I didn't see that team.
Yeah. So I'm with you. So there's your anomalies, right? So the problem is that scientist team, I think is really great. But unfortunately, Galactus is going to ruin that going forward. So Barclay had his time very briefly here.
I will say though,
Mm-hmm.
it could be adapted, because keep in mind with Carnage we're getting some scientist shenanigans, so keep in mind, don't sleep on Barclay going forward. Sure,
Right.
it's a barrier, protect Barclay, I'm going to punch you, but it's also something that could change with Waldo Arms, with a bunch of things coming down the road. And you're talking about Galactus for the elemental shift thing.
Right.
Doc the Turtle.
Yeah. Well, that takes a little bit of time to go, and then it's like 1 square for a bit, then 2 squares. So it's a slow moving thing. It's not, hey, you got to move to the middle of the map immediately. So Barclay's not dead. It's just they're going to have to adapt.
Right.
Just
So
don't sleep on it.
It comes down to if that team can move fast enough for me to say, I'm just going to sit in my starting area because your team will die before mine will.
And I feel like a majority of that team has sidestep. Like almost everybody on the team has sidestep, so they can move slowly.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So.
Yeah, so it's not a death knell or whatever. It's not like Barclay's done. It's just they're gonna have to make some adjustments, or maybe it's just a play thing and they can handle it easily. Maybe they start playing Galactus and make you have to start moving a little bit, so you can't just chill in the back. So there's a lot of avenues. It was a very interesting team that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. So I want to give them the credit that they deserve, because no one was really expecting Barclay. I just make sure going forward, don't sleep on the team.
Right.
It's definitely got potential going forward as well.
But now I would add this one little thing. Joe beat George, and Joe was losing against Scientist, and then Vulture, Thanos snapped his fingers and wiped out his entire team.
So tell me this, are you guys going to start playing Vultures now?
No, because I want to play a team that's good against Batman, Vulture, and Widow.
So my theory about all this, because I kind of watched it all happen. I think your theory is correct, but I think there's also a secondary theory, is that earlier in the meta, earlier this year, or late last year, it became basically an arms race for winning map, right? Like Batman needs a wide open map. Widow loves Poison Ivy map. Tri-Sentinels love Ancient Hold. It became just an arms race where we were talking back in spring about how, your theme is less than 6? Well, why bother? It needs to be at least above an 8 to reasonably win theme. And I think
that's
it got
still
to
true.
It's true, but it's sort of not, because of all the non-theme teams. I think it got to a point where it's like, okay, instead of having to win theme to not instantly lose, how can I build my team to handle every map and every scenario? Right. And so it's like, okay, Wingard is kind of the ultimate Swiss Army knife, because he could pop out any Pog that solves barrier issues, perplexing issues. Like, he's great. Let me throw in random meta figures, Vulture, Batman, Widow. Like, I could just throw them all on the team and create my own mini blender, and you now have to solve 2 parts of my blender in one match.
Right. So I agree, but it also came down to I made one critical mistake versus Joe that cost me. I went for the kill on Dark Phoenix with Chewie, and Dark Phoenix rolled Imperv. So what I should have done is I'd already missed once that turn with the recruit. What I should have done was he put double perplexes in the Dark Phoenix's defense. I should have perplexed up her defense with Chewie, perplexed down the defense with the other Chewie, or perplexed down the attack of the other Chewie, so that I could have generated Black Vulcan and penetrating poisoned her to death. Because I did not roll the 11 that it would have taken. So it comes down to the point I'm making. I think that Widow, Captain Marvel, has the chops to continue to play well. I've just got to learn to play it better. And I was more prepared weekend 2 than I was weekend 1.
Yeah, but your weekend 2 team with Batman and Widow is essentially what I'm talking about. It's what the meta has become. We have these like star players, star figures that control the meta. And instead of going all in on one, it's now let's go all in on 2. And you have to figure out which 2 I'm playing. And you got to deal with 2 of them.
Right. So I think that a lot of folks didn't build against Vulture well enough. And that was the problem. And that's why Vulture continues to do so well. Like Tyler, you love your team, but it's and Isaac Batman wrecked it, right? Like you did very well for the most part. Given your level of practice, and then you ran into Batman, and you were just like, "Well, I'm going to go get Chipotle, guys."
Yeah, I mean,
now, real quick, so you could tailor this into your answer, Tyler. Could your team have handled non-themed Batman?
Yes, that's the issue.
With your one map.
Yeah, with my one map. Yep. What was I going to say? I think, and I'm hesitant to say this. I think the issue is not power creep. I think it's a balance issue. I think WizKids has made certain pieces that are just so good. They break the game. They're just like, they do things that are just unfair that you sort of have to play those pieces. And I think that what we've seen is just people just like, oh, they identified those, 5-10 pieces and they put them on a build. Like they don't synergize that well with each other. It's just any of these pieces individually breaks the game and can win me the game, and you just have to deal with all of them now. So I think that's the issue, that there's certain pieces that are just too overtuned, and there's so many of them, and it's so clear which ones they are based on results. That is an issue that we are running into.
Right, yeah. And I like that too, right? So add in your new overtuned of Valeria Von Doom, right?
Best piece in Hero Cooks, yeah.
I mean, yeah, because, well, she's just supplanted Groot, right?
I think she's better than Groot, but Groot is not unique, so we will see more of Groot.
Right.
But she's gonna get the issue is that everyone's waiting with bated breath, and unfortunately, Nationals is kind of reinforcing that she's gonna get a fix. Everyone knows that's coming.
Do we?
Yeah, everyone knows that because everyone said, "Oh, just wait until people start spin ringing." Like spin ring is in top 8, and pretty much the whole tournament was the most played object in.
Yeah.
Outside of, all right, I take that back because the Octopus Arms was pretty much on every team also. It was between those two, Influence, Spin, and Octopus, top 3 objects in the entire meta, by far.
Yeah.
Like, not even close. And the Spin Ring always went on Valeria because that just made her easy pen damage, like a mini Shredder for 35 points. And so I know all the Groot hype, man, I can't even say that, but it depends, I think.
So do you think they're gonna errata Groot too? They would have to, right? It's the same thing. Only.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
sorry. I was talking about old school Groot.
Oh,
we're talking new Groot. We're talking
okay.
Venom Groot.
Sorry. So I think there's a different way to look at this. I think that even if they errata Valeria to fix her pin damage thing, she is still just as well played as she was before.
I think, and I'll say this real quick, I completely agree because how people are currently using her is not exploiting it the way they probably will fix it. They're going to try to fix.
Knockback, right?
No, they're going. Well, I guess knockback. I think they're going to probably fix the multiple instances from a result of knockback.
Yeah,
I assume that's the main issue. That's the exploit, right? Is Onslaught coming in and
so
punching.
It is, but none of the top teams use that. I mean, they
right, and that's my point. Like that's my point is that they're gonna fix her, but the top teams didn't use her for that, so she'll still be dominant.
Okay, so they're not gonna fix her then, is what you're telling me.
Well, no, they're gonna basically. I mean, I assume they're gonna close loopholes. It just makes sense, right? Because everyone looked at it and said, "Man, Onslaught with her is nuts," because he could just punch someone, knock back for 9. You take the knockback damage, the mind control damage, whatever, and then you take 4 pen damage from her, just hip hopping away, and then you add in Venom Groot and you just tag team and bam, you're gone.
But
whereas
they never fixed Tri-Sentinel, so why is this a problem?
Right, they never fixed Tri-Sentinel. They released something that did the same thing that Valeria did. So
well, let's
and does it better because you don't need a lot of fire for it.
Let's keep in mind though, and this isn't any insider knowledge. I'm not privy to cool whiz kids knowledge. I just have the rock knowledge. Let's keep in mind this year has been in the crapshoot, right? So they probably were saying, all right, let's see how things roll out in Nationals. Oh crap, National isn't happening. Let's wait and see how things turn out in Worlds. Crap, Worlds isn't happening. Oh, we got this rock thing. All right. So sure, maybe we see a watch list down the road or something now that we have a major tournament, which we haven't had since Rock Cup last year. A big major tournament to see how these figures perform. So that's my only reason I'm thinking they're waiting for Tri-Sentinel. They were waiting for a big tournament to see if it's still a problem.
Right. So here's the thing, is that Valeria was in 4 of the top teams in singles. Tri-Sentinel was in 1, 2, 3 of the top teams. But I'll wrap up one last point on Valeria. 30 points, leadership, perplex.
Yeah, she's good without that trait.
Right, she's fantastic. If you errated her to delete that trait, she's still just as playable.
Not just as playable, but she's
still you know what I mean, right? Like she is unthemed leadership, perplex, no problem, or on theme, doesn't matter. It's the same way 2x2 Groot was played on unthemed and themed teams alike. So what you run into is that Tri-Sentinel needs a fix, Vulture needs a fix, Valeria needs a fix, Venom Groot needs a fix. And I think, honestly, realistically, Valeria and Venom Groot don't get fixed. They have no changes to them because their wording is just how it is. So those figures don't get changed. They may change how knockback works, but I doubt it because that's a huge write-up change in the rulebook.
Which didn't they say we were supposed to be getting one frequently? Like it wasn't going to be a 7-year thing. It was supposed to be shorter between rulebooks because we went from 2012 to 2017.
17.
So it's been 4 years. So we're due for another one in like a couple of years, right?
Right. So, the 2 fixes that are still the most huge to me and continue to be the 2 most broken mechanics in HeroClix is the Tri-Sentinel and the Vulture, and Widow.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Widow. So I think the 3 fixes that would make things much more less overtuned, to quote Tyler. Vulture, just add once per turn. Okay. Tri-Sentinel, that says if he hits or if he actually attacked, then he gets to blow up.
Yeah, his is easy. His current wording is free if somebody was attacked. It should be if somebody was attacked, then free. That's all the fix it needs there.
That's correct. And then Black Widow, I think her, depending on how much you hate Black Widow, I think she's probably fine if her dice rolling trait was just moved into range and line of fire, just like her trade crafts.
So they Faust her, essentially.
Basically.
Because Faust was fine after that.
Yeah, Faust.
That's easy. They Faust her. Don't make it global. Now make it within. Make it in.
Yeah.
You know what? None of this would be a problem if Felix Faust was still around. Can you imagine how delicious rolling a yellow would be right now?
Yeah.
Would he be able to target? Would he be able to even target Black Widow with the shifting?
He doesn't need a target.
He doesn't. I don't remember. It's been so long.
No, he just targets everybody within 5 of that square, or 3, or whatever it was.
You don't draw line of fire.
Yeah. It's just chosen square. All right.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, he was able to target through blocking and all kinds of stuff. He was actually able to choose a square of blocking and attack from there. Because it didn't have to be clear or anything.
But hey, all this might go away when we get Galactus. So.
I don't think Galactus is that good. He's good, but he's not.
Kick Tyler from the call, please.
Okay, so
nice talking to you, Tyler.
So I want to talk about Vulture, or I'm sorry, Vulture, not Vulture. We'll talk about Galactus and Spider-Man next time. I do want to run through some folks that have asked us some questions. Tom Shannenberger, we thank you for talking good news about Alex. We appreciate that. Rick Ryan, we went over the builds, our team records, and builds that surprised us. Steven Spooner, we just covered the second round watch list for Vulture. And Christian Bojan, we talked about Fantastic Four, the set in general. I think that definitely succinctly comes down to Valeria for me. And then Anthony Barnstable wants to know, after playing with clickable dials, will you ever go back? The answer is no. I don't think I can.
Well, that's still a lot of work for Alex to get them all organized into a file.
It's not that bad. It's only if I make a major change and I have to redo everything, then yes, that's a big deal. But with everything I have now, I mean, Carnage won't be that big of a deal. So it's just I got to keep up with the times.
I'm sure you can open. I'm sure there are people out there that will help you with that.
Yeah, there are. I've had some people ask. It's
okay.
It's more of a quality control aspect right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
So.
And then so Justin will talk about Galactus next time. Richard McClure, by the way, he went 3-2, almost made the cut with the Punisher War Machine team on Shield, and then so I think we talked about what the biggest piece of advice. So, what is your biggest piece of advice for playing in online tournaments?
Like the day of the tournament, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Definitely, like get to have a space set up with as few distractions as possible, so you're not messing or like outside noise or anything. I guess.
Don't get freaking tilted by Roll20 dice, please.
Yes. Don't do that.
It's gonna screw you over, sure, but the problem is the tilt makes everything way worse. Like, you can maybe manage yourself out of some of them, and some you can't. But those ones that you might can manage yourself out of, you're not going to if you're tilted. That's the biggest thing.
That is a good way to put that.
Yep.
Jason, what did you think? What was your... So you had kind of a crazy first weekend and a second weekend. What was your takeaway from your presence in those two events, like your setup and stuff?
Yeah, I had to get out of the house and go to my office and play. I needed a distraction-free place to play. And that's what you got to have. I don't know. I laid my cards out in front of me too, so that was I could just look at them easy and reference them if I needed to. Having 2 screens is nice.
Yeah,
if you can do it, 2 screens is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say for Worlds, I have a lot of changes I'm still planning on making. I don't want to promise anything right now, but the number one thing is eliminating the need for cards, having the special powers, and even the full dial within the token itself. So you just have to go in, look into the token, not like on the field, but like go into settings or whatever, and being able to see the special powers there, as if you were looking at a card.
Yeah, I think it's still easier just to have my cards laid in front of me.
Well, it's a feature. It's a feature for everybody else.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's cool. I'm not saying it's not cool, but I mean, I can just look down and there it is.
Oh no, I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, some people always prefer analog, which is fine.
I'm old.
Right.
I'm just okay.
I didn't want to say it.
I like. Okay, I like you young whippersnappers can have your computers and whatever. Okay, I like classic HeroClix. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
So what's great about Jason's setup is that he was able to get peace and quiet and overtime at the same time. It was great as he went into his office.
Man, that would have been sweet, but you know what? They don't ever pay me overtime because they don't pay me by the hours. So, that wasn't a thing, but that would have been awesome.
It's like, man, Jason is really hitting the grindstone these past 2 weeks. You see that?
Yeah.
He pulled all-nighters. Yeah.
Yeah, on the weekend, man. Right. I wish that was the case. Yeah.
Oh man. So Joe G. So I think the last thing I wanted to add there was Valeria just. All right, never mind. I already talked about Valeria. Sorry, I just said that.
You can't talk enough about Valeria. It's okay.
I can't. Right. Joe G. asked, why isn't everyone playing Ace? And the threat of, and then Gavin Neves said the threat of her presence alone should be enough for people to consider. I have a few builds where I try and include her. I think it's just because there is enough named theme teams that a lot.
There were 3 of them in top 8.
No, there was one of them or two.
There were 3 aces. No, I'm saying ace. Oh. Sorry, there were 3 aces in top 8.
Yeah, I know for a fact that Ace won Joe. Like I think at least 2 of his games. Like, she is very good.
And she's getting better with this meta. The going away from must have a theme team with all these people non-themed. Yeah. She would have affected what? We said there was only 3 theme teams in top 8, 2. So she would have affected 6 out of the top 8.
Yeah, I've said since she was previous, Ace is really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just you have to play her non-theme. That's the trick.
So
yeah,
I think here's my thought. I think Ace is really good, but I think I'm practiced well enough to play around her a vast majority of the time.
Play around not having Rob?
Right, because high attack is fine. If I'm only needing 4s to hit, I'm probably fine.
Let me ask you a separate...
Then why... Black Widow's not an issue for you then?
So Black Widow, the Black Widow mirror, I can talk about that for a second. It comes down to pacing and positioning. So it depends on if it's the shifty version, if it's the double Marvel version, if it's some random version with like Micron. It's about threat reach, threat assessment, who to go after first. Typically, you want to try to get the other Widow off of its top 2 pretty quickly. So
I agree with that, but a crit miss is still a crit miss.
That is completely correct. And there's nothing you can do about it. But in the Ace matchup, I still have theme team problems.
Oh, true.
And then I, as the opponent, can do something positionally to put myself in a place to play around that. Now, in Widow versus Widow, if I crit miss, I can't do anything about it because life happens.
Yeah.
Now,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tyler.
I was just gonna say Ace makes my top 10 list for HeroClix. She's just probably not in the top 5 right now, but that's it's still pretty good.
So
she might be in the top 5. She's close.
Let me ask the two of you, Dan and Tyler, and Jason, you can answer too, obviously. When was the last time you guys purposely built for meta a non-theme team?
Oh, geez. 3 years ago.
Like on purpose?
On purpose, playing a non-theme team.
When did Xavier School come out?
Right. So for me, it was when Lockjaw came out. So it just became map. If you build to take advantage of it, winning map is still huge. Now, theme is still a trap, and I think that this applies to like the scientist theme team. Is that theme is a trap if everything doesn't synergize extremely well together because of Vulture. So if you're just playing theme to try to exploit a map, and then someone gets all up in your business, the team falls apart. But Cosmic, X-Men, Monster, all these teams have had pieces that synergize really well together that aren't necessarily map dependent. So as long as your theme team is okay with losing map, you're probably fine.
So I guess the reason I asked this question is because we only had 3 theme teams in top 8. And I know top 8 isn't all of the meta, but it does represent, hey, these are the teams that just did better. Yeah. So do these results at all change your opinion about playing non-theme teams? And would you entertain the idea of building a non-theme team?
It doesn't change my opinion because I have never thought it was bad to build a non-theme team. It just doesn't really fit my play style, I don't think. I like to go first. I want to go. I want to make my opponent have to be on the back foot. So I think for me, I'm still going to try to stick with this as much as possible. But I don't even know if it's the best way to play. It's just how I like to play.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead. No, I agree with Tyler. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, does all this new keyword cheating mean that we're going to have a lot more flexibility in building a theme team now?
Maybe.
True. Yeah, that's potential.
It could make Ace a little bit worse.
Well, Ace, yeah. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have anything good with, like, I don't know, these other pieces may have. You can, like, robots can be theme team, like, name theme team now, and, like, all these generic keywords that we're using on this stuff might be able to be Spider-Man family now for something good. I don't know. But
that's fair.
I think the point I'm looking at this and what Nats has changed for me is that I'm now looking at what is theme really, really worth to me. Am I handicapping myself just for the sake of theme when I could play a Vulture, could play a Wingard, could play Ace? Like Ace, you have to play non-theme. She doesn't have generic keywords. You're not playing Gotham City Underworld. So am I willing to, and I've played non-theme teams recently. Like I played the Hulk team back in the Chicago event. So for me, it's like my view is changing. I'm not sitting here thinking, all right, I have to win map. How bad do I need to win map? Well, should I build my team this way now? Or should I go to non-theme? It's not as detrimental as it used to be. And now I could try to fit pieces that I wanted to play but couldn't because of theme. Now I can fit them in to cover my weakness of going second almost every game. So it's something I think a lot of players, especially the players who don't have a determined like a set team, like definitely start thinking about. Like, you don't have to go monster theme team just to get that pluses. If it means you now could put Valeria or 2x2 Magneto or Dark Phoenix, or whatever. Right. You don't have to do that anymore because as long as your team can handle not winning map, and I think map isn't. I mean, Ancient Hold is always going to be a thing, But now you could just say, all right, I play a 30-point Tri-Sentinel, and half of Ancient Hold's gone now on turn 1 when I activate the Retile. So it's there's so many mini blenders going on now.
Right. So I think Alex, your point is well received there. So my thing is that for me, theme has always been the team absolutely has to work well together if it goes second and loses map. That's the only way theme for me works. And then second of all, I only want typically enough theme to make sure that I can punish non-theme teams. And so far, between playing Uni on Cosmic and now playing Avengers, against non-theme teams, I think I have like a 90% plus win record against non-theme teams. With my low generic or low name theme teams.
Do you know how many teams overall in the whole tournament in singles didn't have theme?
I've wanted to find that information, but that'll take me some time. But because I don't have every build in a document. That's one of the things I was going to do after Team Nats. But I mean, I will say like it's definitely not up to 50%. I don't think it's that bad. But I think it's definitely significantly higher than what we saw at the Rock Cup Worlds last year. It's just, it feels when I was putting all, because keep in mind, I put in manually most of these teams. Like me and the other judges did. So we saw these teams fairly regularly, and it just did not give me the impression. It felt like non-theme was pretty popular. It was just popular.
I didn't play against a non-theme team the entire time.
Yeah.
Really?
Nope. Mm-mm. No, I faced like a Spy theme, Avengers, 2 Fantastic Four, Cosmic, 3 Fantastic Four. Yeah.
And I think I'll leave with my last point there of, unlike Tyler, I do play more than one map on my map list. Just for that variation. So yeah.
You only need one. It's fine.
Until you don't.
Until I don't.
That's right. So Derek Lair will ask your question next time. Michael Broderick asked ... So I don't know what that secret code is for. And then Emmanuel will cover your Carnage question, and then I think we have shared our thoughts of Vulture hybrid builds winning a national event 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
But yet he goes continually unerrated.
Well, I mean, he's got what? If rotation happened, he's gone, right? After next July.
I hope so, right? It has to be.
Yeah, but then comes the question: what if rotation doesn't happen? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, now he's totally he's totes gone. Yeah, he's 2 sets ahead of Batman, which is the oldest set. So something to consider.
I've been saying it should be ratted since it came out. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, my biggest thing outside of Vulture, I think WizKids needs to fix place.
Yes.
The word place is very confusing to new people. Like, from experience judging this tournament, and a lot of people didn't know, like, there's 2 types of place, right? You generate and you place someone next to you. That's not place. That's not place. Dumb. It's a different place. It's a completely different place. And
they did it. They ruled it that way because of Pogs. People were like, oh, you can't poison after you place with a Pog. And then they made a win ruling. So that's a different kind of place. And like, it's so dumb. It's like, okay. Valeria says, when you place a figure within 5 of her, and then this says, place this figure. That doesn't count, though. It's so dumb.
Well, but then that could also solve this whole knockback issue. If they make a ruling and say, oh, no. When you knock back, that place is this weird other place.
It doesn't. It needs to be
the third kind.
The secondary place, the kind that happens when you generate, happens when you call somebody in, happens when you shifting focus, you place, replace. Like, because I got questions like, hey, they're generating a Widow's Recruit in front of my Valeria. Do I deal one because that character was generated? It was placed there. Well, no, because that's not place. That's a different kind of place. So they need to come up with a different word, right?
All right.
They got to come up with something.
Capital and lowercase would also work.
All right. How about this? My brain hurts at this point. Let's go to final thoughts. Jason, go.
I don't know. I'm tired. I don't know. I don't have any.
Alex?
Wait, when are we talking about Carnage set? Tyler, where are we talking about Carnage?
Next time. Next time.
So many things. Okay.
Tyler, final thoughts?
Nats was fun. It was a great success by anyone's measure. I think most people had fun. There was bigger turnout than the last couple years in Nats, I'm pretty sure. Looking forward to Worlds. That's me.
Yep. So, yep. And again, I thank all the Rock staff and crew for their diligent work and getting us through many rounds in short periods of time. And then thanks everybody for listening to Clickstuff today. We'll talk to y'all next time.
See you.